My name's Jim Jellison, and I live in Pleasanton, California. I've lived there for about 32 years. I'm a retiree from the Lawrence Livermore Lab and also a retiree from the United States Navy. I've been flying since 1978. I've been flying out of Livermore here for about 25 years. I started flying at Amelia Reed Aviation back in '78 and learned to fly there. And then when I moved up to this valley, to Livermore area, then I started flying with Ahart Aviation at Livermore Airport. Currently fly with Attitude Aviation. Got started my interest in aviation back in 1970 when I was assigned as a crewman on a P-3 Orion reconnaissance aircraft. And I flew for 2 years in the Navy and a couple of tours overseas. And that sort of gave me the aviation bug. And so after I finished college, I decided to take up flying. I've flown many different kinds of planes. I've flown about every Cessna that there is, from a 150 two-seater all the way up to a 182 a retractable gear. I've flown Diamonds, I've flown Moonies, I've flown Malls, I've flown Pipers. Most often, and most recently, I now fly Cetabrias, which are tail draggers. Cetabrias are a little bit different. Being a tail dragger, the center of gravity is behind the pilot instead of underneath the pilot or in front of the pilot. So the aircraft, if it's not landed properly, meaning perpendicular or parallel with the runway, exactly parallel with the runway, will have a tendency to switch ends, which is called a ground loop. So I fortunately never done one of those. I was headed that way several times, but my instructor saved me. But now that I've been flying on my own for a number of hours, luckily I haven't had any close calls. It's very rewarding though, now that I have flown it and I've flown it for 100 hours. I'm glad that at age 65, I decided to take on the challenge of the tail dragger. There's a saying in aviation that there are old pilots and bold pilots, but there are no old bold pilots. And as you can see by the gray hair, I'm an old pilot. So I try to be very conservative in my flying. One of the 2 times in my flying career that my engine actually quit, in both those occasions, my wife happened to be with me. So she doesn't fly with me as much as I would like, but she's got her reasons. The $100 hamburger, well, it used to be it cost you about $100 to fly for about an hour in an airplane, and so if you flew for a hamburger, that's what it was considered to be. It was a $100 hamburger. And prices have gone up, however. So it's more like a $200 hamburger, depending on what kind of aircraft you take. The bigger the plane, the more capable the aircraft, the more expensive it is. And so there's a reason why I fly single engine aircraft. It's because twin engines cost twice as much. Can't afford it. My budget more or less restricts me to renting aircraft for a couple of hours and flying within 2 or 3 hours of the Bay Area. So there's hardly an airport you can name within 2 hours of the Bay Area that I haven't flown to. But just to fly somewhere, I mean, what's the point? So I decided that I would go and I would fly to various restaurants. And so all the little airports I could get to, I knew just about all the restaurants, whether they had good breakfasts or good lunches and who was open for dinner and so on and so forth. A young lady that I met down at Amelia Reed's in Reed Hillview Airport said to me, maybe I should get into actually writing these things up. And I gave it some thought, but it wasn't until I started flying with Ahart that they actually said to me, if you'll write those up, we'll put them in our monthly newsletter. And so I did. And so that's where I became the Flying Gourmet and continued that for quite a while. And then sort of lost interest in it, and it kind of fell away until my friend Kirk Sylvester came up with a website and said that if I wrote up Flying Gourmets, he'd put them in every month and he'd maintain a site for me. So I've been doing that now for quite a while as well. So now the Flying Gourmet is on Kirk's website, Livermore Rocks.